Order on Monday, December 16th, 2019. We have before us an agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Yep. You heard all that.
Yes, I did.
Any discussion, additions, changes? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We also have the minutes of the December 2nd, 2019 regular meeting of the Community Development Committee. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Johnson moved. Wolf seconded. This is kind of interesting. Women ruled tonight.
We do.
Sorry,
Rule.
I just got kind of
Every day,
in a moment. So, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any discussion, additions, corrections? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes approved. The first item under business is the public hearing for the Livable Communities Act. So I'm calling this public hearing to order. I'm having fun with the gavel tonight, folks. This hearing is to receive public comment on the affordable and life cycle housing goals of the City of Little Canada. The city recently took action electing to participate in the Metropolitan Council Livable Communities Local Housing Incentives Account Program. To participate in the Local Housing Incentives Account Program, a community must establish affordable and life cycle housing goals that are consistent with and promote the policies of the Metropolitan Council. The City of Little Canada has established affordable and life cycle housing unit goals consistent with the Metropolitan Council policies. The Metropolitan Council is required by statute to hold a public hearing and adopt the city's affordable and life cycle housing goals by January 15th for the city to be eligible to apply for Livable Communities funding in 2020. Is there anyone who would like to speak that has, first of all, did anyone sign up?
No, they did not, Jen.
No one signed up. Is there anyone who would like to speak that had not signed up on the sheet just outside the room? Okay, seeing none. Members, do you have any questions about the action we're about to take tonight? Okay. And Tara, is there anything you wish to add? Okay. So the public record will remain open until 5 p.m. on Monday, December 27th. To comment on the affordable and life cycle housing goals of the City of Little Canada, members of the public may write the council at 390 Roberts Street North, St. Paul, Minnesota 55101. They may email the council at public.info@met.state.mn.us, or they may record a comment on the public comment line at 651-602-1500, or the TTY number is 651-291-0904. Thank you. This hearing is adjourned. Chair Lindgren is really missing a big meeting tonight, so I would like the minutes to show that. No, not really. Item 2. Tara, thank you very much. Thank you. Business item number 2, 2019-310JT, City of Rosemont 2040 Comprehensive Plan and Comprehensive Sewer Plan Review File 22286-1. Patrick Boylan. Oh, we have someone other than Patrick here tonight.
There is a replacement today.
Yes.
Patrick is out of the office. So if you don't mind, my name is Angela Torres. I'm the manager of local planning assistance. My notes here say that I'm Patrick Boylan, but that's not the case, so I hope you'll roll with it. Patrick is the sector rep for districts 13, 14, 15, and 16. And he wanted to make sure that I gave you a note that the City of Rosemont staff have been incredible to work with throughout this very long process, and that Kyle Klatt, the city's planner, is in the audience today. With that, I'll start. Figure 1 from the staff report shows the location of regional system components within the City of Rosemont. U.S. Highway 52 runs through the eastern portion of the city and connects the city to Rochester and St. Paul. Dakota County Highway 42 runs east-west, and Minnesota Highway 55 is located in the eastern portion of the city. The city has 3 interceptors, 1 lift station, and 2 MCES meters. Regional trails include the Vermilion Highlands Greenway Trail, the Rosemont Unit Greenway Trail, and the Mississippi River Regional Trail. A portion of Spring Lake Regional Park is also located in the city along the Mississippi River. Figure 2 of the staff report reflects the Thrive MSP 2040 community designation of emerging suburban edge for the city. And Rosemount is located in north central Dakota County, surrounded by the communities of Inver Grove Heights, Cottage Grove, Nininger Township, Vermilion Township, Coates, Empire Township, Lakeville, Apple Valley, and Egan. Table 1, also in your staff report, shows that between 2020 and 2040, the council forecasts that the city will grow by 12,100 people, representing 4,700 households. There will be an increase of 3,200 jobs in the city in the same time frame. Table 3 from the staff report, shown here, illustrates the planned residential density in the emerging suburban edge areas of the city. The table shows that 1,191 acres are expected to develop with the potential of 6,781 to 18,218 total new household units. Rosemount's a very large community and with a very large percentage of land and cultivation. Communities with an emerging suburban edge designation under Thrive are expected to plan for a forecasted population and household growth at an overall average minimum density of 3 to 5 units per acre for new and redevelopment, and Rosemount's plan is consistent with this policy. The overall density for guided residential land is expected to be between 3.4 and 9.15 units per acre, which meets the appropriate policies in Thrive. The city's existing land use map refers to figure 3 in the staff report. The green portions of the map, 3.2 is land and cultivation. The large light purple area in the northeast portion of the city is the Flint Hills Resources Refinery and adjacent buffer areas. The yellow and brown represent residential development, and the scattering of red indicates areas of commercial and office locations. The city's future land use map refers to figure 4 in the staff report. The light yellow, light brown, and dark brown areas are expected residential portions of the city. Red represents future commercial. Dark blue represents institutional. The Dakota County Technical College is visible in the lower center portion of the map. And finally, the large dark gray area in the northeastern portion of the map is map 3.4 is Flint Hills. The actual refinery is of course much smaller in area than what's shown in that color. However, the refinery owns or controls many acres to serve as a buffer to the heavy industrial use. The dark green in the center southernmost region of the city is the portion of Umore Park in Rosemount. The rest of Umore is in Empire Township to the south. The proposed findings are that the plan conforms to Metropolitan system plans consistent with council policies and compatible with plans of adjacent local governmental units and affected jurisdictions. Earlier this month on Tuesday, December 10th, the Environmental Services staff presented to the Environment Committee, and the plan will be heard by the Metropolitan Council on Wednesday, January 8th. I do just want to remind you that Kyle Klatt is in the audience if you have any questions. But with that, the proposed action is that the council authorize the city of Rosemount to place its 2040 comprehensive plan into effect, and that within 60 days after receiving final DNR approval, the city must adopt the market plan and submit a copy of the final adopted plan and evidence of adoption to the DNR Council and National Park Service within 10 days after the adoption. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Atlas Ingebrigtsen.
Thank you, Chair. The map difference for this comp plan struck me as significantly different compared to others, and I'm just curious, in particular, in the reduction of kind of growing and green spaces, golf courses maybe too, and I'm just curious about, and just seemed really significant compared to maybe other communities. Question, I guess, is maybe more of an observation. I'm just curious about are the golf courses and park recreational preserve spaces going away, that in the places where looks like right now it's agricultural research is in a space where the park preserve is.
Normally, Patrick would very easily be able to
I know.
answer your questions. I told Kyle before the meeting started that it's very rare for him to have to come up and answer any questions, but I might have to call on him and ask it.
We believe in his capacity.
Right here, Susan. Please. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, sure. And I think to address your question, the city really hasn't changed how we're dealing with parks and so forth. There are a few parks that probably are keeping a rural, or I'm sorry, a residential land use designation where their neighborhood or smaller parks. With UMOR, the big change there is that UMOR previously was all guided for agricultural research. And with this plan, this is the first time the city is actually guiding land for a specific residential or commercial land use category. So you're not seeing what that are, where some of these larger parks may go within the UMOR. So we still have our requirements for park dedication. We expect that there will be some, few larger areas within UMOR that are dedicated for parkland. We're just not showing them on the broad term of our land use plan at this time. So I think they're still there. We're not planning on major reductions to what we're planning for or accounting for green space. It just is probably showing differently now because of UMOR primarily.
Kyle, just for the record, could you introduce yourself, please?
I'm sorry, I'm Kyle
That's
Platt.
okay.
I'm the senior planner for the city of Rosemount.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification.
Anyone else? Before I ask for a motion, I just, since I'm a little flaky and I'm recovering from a little bit of my own jet lag, as a kid growing up, whenever my family would come to the cities, getting to Rosemont was a little bit like arriving at the Emerald City gates because of the Coke refinery coming up 52, especially when we would approach it at night. And as a kid who comes from a full-blooded Irish family, we were always reminded that Rosemont was really special because it was the home to so many Irish people. So this is a fun one to see come before us tonight. I want to thank you, Kyle.
Yes.
So is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Lee, second by Wolf. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you both
Great.
very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Next item is 2019-331JT Carver County 2040 Comprehensive Plan and Lake Township Comprehensive Plan, Comprehensive Sewer Plan Review File 21937-1. This is Molly. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, Madam Chair, council members. I'm Brian Smiley, Sector Representative for District 4 in Local Planning Assistance and Community Development Division. I'd like to let the committee know that Adriana Atchison, Carver County's planner, is in the audience today. And I also want to let you know that during this process of working with the county, it was a very delightful experience working with them, especially with the large jurisdiction that they have planning for all the townships, and all the coordination that they did locally was phenomenal. So thank you for that, Adriana. Before you today is the Carver County's 2040 Comprehensive Plan. This map, which is figure 1 of your staff report, shows the location of regional system components within Carver County. Carver County is the park implementing agency also for the regional park system, and the county includes several park system components. I'm not going to list them all. It's actually one whole page of your staff report. But 1 park reserve, 3 regional parks, 2 park search areas, 4 regional trails, and 10 regional trail search corridors. There are 2 principal arterials located in Carver County, and that's Highway 7 and Highway 212 that are going sort of east-west in the county. And the council does not have any plans to provide wastewater services to any of the townships within Carver County except for Laketown Township. And that is why, as part of this plan, you saw that it was the Carver County Comprehensive Plan and Laketown Township Comprehensive Sewer Plan. So except for Laketown Township, there are no requirements for any of the other townships to submit a sewer plan for approval. There are also 3 interceptors in Laketown Townships. Um, Carver County is located in the western part of the 7-county metro area. It is bordered by the counties of Hennepin and Scott within the metro area, and this is figure 2 of your staff report that shows that there are 5 different community designations in Carver County, and those include suburban edge, emerging suburban edge, rural center, diversified rural, and agricultural. As I briefly mentioned, the county has land use planning authority for all of the 10 townships that are within the county, but not the cities. So we will, what we are discussing today excludes the cities within the Carver County. Table 1 of your staff report shows that between 2020 and 2040, the council forecasts that the county will grow by almost 53,000 people, representing 21,700 households, and there will be an increase of almost 13,000 jobs in the county in the same time frame. Table 2 also in your staff report shows that between 2020 and 2040, the council forecasts that the Laketown Township's population will decrease by 1,200 people, over 1,200 people. The households will decrease by 470 by 470, and jobs will decrease by 110 in the same time frame. I should mention that the reason for this decrease is that Laketown Township has an orderly annexation agreement with the cities, the neighboring cities of Waconia, Victoria, and Chaska. So while previously it was believed that Laketown Township will not be around by 2040, but the reason that there are still some forecasted population, households, and employment in Laketown Township is that by 2040 the township will still be around, until a time that the existence of the township is not viable anymore and it will be dissolved. But the reason for the decrease in the numbers before you in this table is that the township will be annexed into the cities that I mentioned. So the population will be added to those cities, basically. I just mentioned that note. Okay, the county's existing land use map refers to, this is a figure 3 of your staff report. The existing land uses in Carver County are predominantly agricultural, that's over 53%. And over 18% of the county represents the cities that's within the boundaries. So those are the gray areas on this map. There are also over 3% of land designated as single family or farmstead, and just below 17% as wetlands and undeveloped. The county's future land use map is figure 4 of your staff report. The future land uses are identified as the 2040 city growth area, agricultural, open water, and park. The 2040 city growth area category shows areas that are identified for annexation into the respective cities and for future development. And as you can see in Laketown Township, majority of the area that is going to be developed in the next 20 years is identified with that kind of a pinkish color, I think, right? So these are areas that are expected to receive wastewater service upon annexation to the cities. And all of these areas that are shown here are consistent with the orderly annexation boundaries within the respective cities' plans. The agricultural area land use category identifies residential density in this area as 1 per 40 acre, which is consistent with our policies for agricultural land and for also agricultural preserves. That is the policy that's laid out in Thrive for agricultural areas. Um, so for this plan, the proposed findings are that the plan conforms to the Metropolitan System plans, is consistent with council policies with the proposed forecast changes for Laketown Township, and is compatible with the plans of adjacent local governmental units and affected jurisdictions. And this plan is scheduled to go to the Environment Committee on January 14th, and that's because of the Laketown Township Comprehensive Sewer Plan component. And then the plan will be heard by the Metropolitan Council on Wednesday, January 22nd. And I just want to remind the committee that Adriana Atchison, the Carver County's planner, is in the audience if you have any questions. So with that, the proposed actions before you today are to authorize Carver County to place its 2040 comprehensive plan into effect and revise Laketown Township's forecast upward as shown in Table 2 of the review record, and also revise Laketown Township's sewer service employment forecast upward as shown in Table 3 of the review record. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
Move approval?
Wolf moves. Second.
Second.
Johnson seconds. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item is 2019-352 JT City of St. Francis 2040 Comprehensive Plan and Comprehensive Sewer Plan Review File 22287-1. Eric Wycheck. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair Vento. I'm nursing a little bit of a cold, so bear with me here. As you know, my name is Eric Wycheck. I've been before this committee before. I am the sector representative for Districts 2, 9, and 10. And I'd like to present the City of St. Francis comprehensive plan before you tonight. The Community Development Director wanted to be here tonight, but I think she said that things at the city were getting a bit hectic. I don't know if she was working on something. She couldn't get out the door in time. So Kate Thunstrom would have liked to have been here, but she's not here. So we worked quite closely with the city throughout this process, meeting very early. I think they were one of the first cities I met with to scope their work on the plan. And we've been in constant contact with them probably for the better part of 2 years on this. So it's a big accomplishment for the city, and they've been working really hard. So I'm happy to present this tonight. City of St. Francis, within Thrive MSP 2040, has 2 community designations. One is Rural Center, and the other one is Diversified Rural. The City of St. Francis is located along the northwestern border of Anoka County. It is surrounded by the communities, some of which are outside the Twin Cities metropolitan area. So those communities are Stanford Township, Athens Township, Elk River, and Livonia Township. And the communities that surround St. Francis within the Twin Cities metropolitan area are East Bethel, Oak Grove, and Nowthen. This map shows the location of regional systems components within the city. When we look at park system components, Anoka County is the parks implementing agency for this area. There is no regional park, but there is a Northwest Anoka County Regional Park Search Area within the City of St. Francis in the western portion of the city. There are 2 regional trails, the Rum River and the Sugar Hills Regional Trails. There are 2 state recreation areas, Bethel and Carl E. Bonnell Wildlife Management Areas. And there are no principal arterials located within the St. Francis when considering the highway system. St. Francis, as you probably know, they own and operate and manage their own wastewater. So they have their own municipal wastewater system. So there are no Metropolitan Council regional wastewater services within the city. Forecasted growth. The reason that this slide looks different than most you've seen for comprehensive plans is that we're looking at just like a slight increase in sewer service forecast, and I'll explain that. In Table 1 in your staff report, we see that between 2020 and 2040, the council forecasts that the city will grow by approximately 4,400 people, representing 2,000 households There'll be an increase of 700 jobs. So that second table below shows a revised sewer service forecast. And this is because the city has already exceeded its 2030 sewer service forecast as early as 2017. They've been developing quite a bit, and they were exceeding our expectations. So we've revised those sewer service forecasts upwards, and the city expects the number of unserviced households to remain within the 730 to 760 range, but the council will revise the sewer service forecast on its community profiles webpage to match the table found in the plan and as shown here. Table 3 from the staff report shows the planned residential density for the Royal Center area of the city. So this would be the Seward portion of the city. And we see here that the city is planning for a density of between 3.56 and 8.76 units per acre. This complies with the Rural Center community designation requirements of average densities of between 3 and 5 units per acre for new development and redevelopment. So the area outside of the Seward area is that diversified rural area. And within Thrive, we would expect communities to plan for growth of 4 units per 40 acres, and St. Francis plan is consistent with this policy as well. The city's existing land use map refers to figure 3 in the staff report. The existing land uses in St. Francis are predominantly residential, about 27.5%, and 22% of those are within the unsewered areas of the city. Most of the commercial and office is located near transportation corridors. The industrial areas are primarily the aggregate mining areas within the western portion of the city, making up about 16.5% of the use. And approximately 8.1% is parks and open space. Agricultural use encompasses most of the remaining land uses at 39.6%. So not too much is changing in the 2040 land use plan. I would say that the main change that we're seeing is an increase in density within the Seward area, so that rural center area, where they are identifying some areas of medium density and high density. And again, this complies with Thrive in meeting that overall 3 per acre. The city's development staging map refers to figure 5 in the staff report. You'll see a hatched area in gray, and that's the urban reserve land. And a lot of that land, a lot of the gray area is shown out with the Seward area. And the idea is to preserve that for post-2040 urban services. So that would be beyond this planning horizon. There are some areas where the city does allow for higher densities in the rural areas, and they comply with the Metropolitan Council's flexible development guidelines in those situations. And those flexible development guidelines allow communities to exceed the density in the rural areas, provided that they use cluster developments to preserve the potential future provision of urban services. It can be cluster developments or ghost platting or other methods. Council staff recommend the following proposed findings: that the plan conforms with the Metropolitan Systems plans, is consistent with council policies with proposed forecast changes, it's compatible with the plans of adjacent local governmental units in affected jurisdictions. This plan actually has already been to the Environment Committee, and that was due to a scheduling issue, so it actually appeared to the Environment Committee last week, but it's due to appear before the full council on January 8th. Council staff recommend that the committee authorize the City of St. Francis to place its 2040 plan into effect, revise the city's sewer service forecast upward as shown in Table 2, and revise the affordable housing need allocation to 213 units, and advise the city to adopt the advisory comments within the staff report. Happy to take any questions you might have.
Are there any questions? Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, kudos to the city. Just curious, they came in process almost 2 years ago. Is it a capacity issue, or are there just a lot of changes with the comp plan itself with growth coming at them?
I think the reason that we discussed things early is that they were just kind of ahead of the mark. I would say that they were being very proactive. Um, we went through we provided a checklist to the community in terms of what needs to be in the comprehensive plan. They just wanted to go through that with us. Um, the nice thing about meeting up in St. Francis is they always seem to have cookies out there. But so that's always a nice incentive. But no, I think that they were just being very proactive in their planning. But they have seen a lot of development interest in the community, and I think that's because they are one of these older separate towns that has a core, a center, and they're sewered. So there's a lot more commercial and residential development interest in their community. So we'll probably see a little bit more of that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And it wasn't a concern question. It was just interesting that they've put a lot of time into it. And so kudos to them and you for the good partnership on that.
Thank you.
I have kind of a goofy question. On slide 8, in the lower right-hand corner, just outside the dark boundary, there's an area that's designated as permanent agriculture, and I don't recall seeing that on other maps. What does permanent agriculture mean, particularly in an era where agriculture is struggling so much? I don't know how. I mean, I'm just wondering how that designation comes to be and how permanent it is.
Thank you, Chair. I believe that the permanent agriculture, I can check this again, but it may be the case in this instance that permanent agriculture is actually enrolled within the agricultural preserves program.
Oh, okay.
And we have found that some communities seem very well aware of which parcels are enrolled within the program and others don't. But we've been really careful to try to raise that issue when we get plans in and make sure that the land is appropriately guided, because they really need to guide land at 1/40 as part of the agricultural preserves program, and they also have to have it referred to as such. So I think that in this case it is that agricultural preserves
Okay.
land.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Cummings moves. Second.
Second.
Lee seconds. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Thank
you. Our next item is 2019-363 City of Eden Prairie 10197 Eden Prairie Road Comprehensive Plan Amendment. Review number 21978-2. Michael Larson, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I'm Michael Larson, Senior Planner and Local Planning Assistant, and I'm the Sector Rep for Eden Prairie as well as other cities in the region. So the City of Eden Prairie has submitted the 10197 Eden Prairie Road Comprehensive Plan Amendment for Council review. As shown as Figure 1 of the staff report, Thrive gives the City of Eden Prairie a community designation of suburban. The area affected by the amendment is a small area in red. This is located in the southern part of the city along Flying Cloud Drive. As shown in Figure 2 of your staff report, this is a regional system map. As noted in the staff report, a multi-purpose trail is under construction or planned for construction in conjunction with the full reconstruction of Flying Cloud Drive. This portion is part of the Bryant Lake Regional Search Corridor, Regional Trail Search Corridor, which is shown on the map. The Three Rivers Park District has not completed a master plan for the whole corridor, but one would expect that would be a portion of the ultimate extent of the alignment. This map also shows the Minnesota Valley National Wildlife Refuge, which the staff report explains is recognized by the Regional Parks Policy Plan. We'll note that the green area shown is the federal designated boundary of the refuge. While this land includes land owned by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, much of the area that's shown in green is privately owned and is part of the floodplain. This situation is somewhat analogous to in-holdings for regional parks, where it identifies an ultimate geographic extent of the refuge, but there may be private properties in the interim or as part of a long-term management plan for the natural resources. And we can elaborate on that if you have any follow-up questions. The map above shows the change in guiding land use of the just over 1 acre site, which is located northeast of the intersection of Flying Crow Drive and Eden Prairie Road. The amendment guides this parcel from rural to low density residential and incorporates the parcel into the wastewater service area. The amendment is associated with a proposal for just a single house on the parcel. And as I mentioned in the staff report, the council authorized earlier this year similar amendments which re-guided much larger areas to the east, which are shown in the darker yellow. So the amendment area is shown here on this particular aerial photo, shown in red. For context, the recent amendments, the much larger amendments, are shown to the east in orange. The thin green lines that you see on the map are changes represent topographic contours, changes in elevation of 10 feet. The hash marks show the 100-year floodplain, which includes the north-south traversing of Riley Creek, as well as the swath of area on the bottom part of that area, which is part of the Minnesota Valley Wildlife Refuge. The general area, this is not mapped, but the general area includes high-quality habitat classified in the Council and DNR's Natural Resources Inventory Assessment Database. And I will also mention that the sensitivity of the area is further demonstrated by the areas in green, which are also have these characteristics and have been acquired by the city of Eden Prairie as conservation areas, including the portion on the east, which is referred to as the Prairie Bluff Conservation Area. So the findings that staff is the amendment conforms to regional system plans, but is not consistent or inconsistent rather with the natural resources policies in Thrive MSB 2040, but is consistent with other policies. In terms of the wastewater treatment system, the potential additional wastewater flow from a single family home is obviously insignificant compared to the reserve capacity for the rest of the city. And I will note that although development on these sites is not consistent with natural resources policies, a specific development plan is not yet proposed at this time. Continued review by the city and various agencies could result in an outcome that minimizes the potential environmental impact that any development on this location would bring. And the last finding is that the amendment is not compatible, as we found with the previous amendments, with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service's Minnesota Valley National Wildlife Refuge Comprehensive Conservation Plan, but is consistent with other jurisdictions' plans. So the proposed action for you today is somewhat lengthy, and again, similar to our proposed action earlier this year. One, to adopt the attached review record and allow the city of Eden Prairie to place the 10197 Eden Prairie Road Comprehensive Plan amendments into effect. Two, to find that the amendment is inconsistent with natural resource policy in Thrive MSB 2040, and that urbanization of the parcel is inadvisable. We found that urbanization, even at low density residential densities, can result in the permanent loss of the site's existing diverse ecological integrity with the process of grading for buildable home sites, provision of necessary support infrastructure, and the inevitable introduction of invasive native species into the area. Vegetative species, rather. Third, proposed action is to strongly encourage the city to reconsider the development of this property due to the limited development capacity and the potential for environmental degradation on or adjacent to the site. B, to complete further analysis to determine the level of development that is suitable for the site, including environmental review, steep slopes, bluffs, tree removal and replacement, cultural archaeological studies, and shoreline and floodplain information. C, to collaborate with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and other entities that consider the overall environmental and aesthetic conditions of the refuge and its surroundings. and 4, to advise the city to implement additional advisory comments related in the review record related to natural resources. Madam Chair, that completes my presentation. Happy to answer questions about this proposal.
Questions? Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And maybe you touched on this. So this is this a city-initiated guiding, or is there a development proposal in the wings or in process or an application at the city that's driving this?
Madam Chair, Councilmember Johnson, this was application driven at the city level, and the city reviewed and I should note that the application, although this is not our purview, the application was accompanied by a proposal for rezoning. The city did rezone, but not for what the applicant had requested. The rezoning accommodates a single home, no more.
And Madam Chair,
Yes, Councilmember.
thank you. And again, not just because of Eden Prairie, but it's a great work on this. I know there's some concerns, certainly because of the environmental sensitivity, but too, with the 100-year floodplains that we hashtag out, or the 500-year, with just the way climate has changed, and we're seeing more and more water. Yeah, I'm always just intrigued by how close development, whether it's a single unit or more, how local units of government are trying to manage that. Not really, again, our purview per se, but it seems like we're still going on those old metrics. Maybe they've been updated and I'm unaware, but that's just something that over the years I've noticed. It's changed over time. So.
Oh, well, Madam Chair, Councilmember Johnson, you didn't have a specific question, but I will respond by saying that it's quite possible that with additional scrutiny, that the site could be determined to be unsuitable for development. I'm not an environmental engineer, but it's possible that given the city's experience with issues of subsidence related to significant rainfall events, and that the city may make that determination, or the costs related to ensuring that doesn't happen are excessive and really greatly restrict potential development. And I did ask the city about the status of development proposals on the much larger areas that were recently amended to the east. And I don't have that information. I have said that this is a very interesting case study regarding application of regional natural resources policies, and the trials and tribulations that the city, and approaches and successes that the city take. This is very unique. I think a somewhat unique case, and it's certainly been this part of the region has been, and I covered that in the staff report, very long-standing concern about both the environmental integrity and the aesthetic quality, and I believe that the city shares that as well. And has various tools at its disposal, and it's really our role to make this finding. And it's difficult to say what the ultimate outcome might be. But
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for that response.
Councilmember Atlas Ingebrigtsen.
Thank you, and I appreciate the further conversation. One of the wonderings that I have, or the wondering that I have, is even though this is consistent with the other policies in Thrive, when do we choose to hold our natural resource policies or those of other agencies like the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services? When does that trip decisions we make about recommending things for approval? When I think about the certain situation we're in, whether it's 100-year rains happening every year or twice or three times in a year, or it's the displacement of habitat for species, or us building ourselves out of our planet in natural balance, when does that become a priority in these decision makings? If it never does, because everything else, it meets all the other criteria, but not that one, then that will never be a factor, a priority to change behavior and scope. And so I'm struggling with that a little bit in this, and I'm curious, my wonderment.
Do one of you want to?
whichever.
Sure.
Me?
Go ahead.
Sure, go for it.
Advocate.
I can.
Madam Chair, Councilmember Atlas Ingerbritsen, the the council's the limits of our authority vary. Most significantly, our authority is related to regional systems, the utilization of those systems, planning for those systems. We can't use our system-related authority to enforce natural resources policy. The regulatory framework lies with other organizations. One thing that we can bring to the table is the presentation of what we see globally as important regional national natural resources issues. When Thrive was being developed, I listened to some of those conversations among the council members. I think going forward, it would be important to hear from different local communities about what their limitations and constraints are, whether they be the limits of their own authority, the lack of resources perhaps to acquire land, the lack of, but I think all of us bring a lot of certain levels of expertise to the table. We might not have ideal outcomes, and we can learn from these particular cases.
Well, I would also kind of note that many times in a situation like this, it's the community activists who care about the environment as well who step in and lobby their city council and their neighbors to do the right thing. I've seen it in a couple of communities here in the East Metro area where there was talk of development in spots that folks wanted preserved for park or just the natural value of the land. And so that's a possibility. And frankly, if it's the local activists that are doing it rather than the big bad Met Council, that's a good thing.
Madam Chair, if I
Yes,
may
yes.
also add, just council members, when natural resource policy comes into play for your decision making really lies in your investment decisions as well, where you want to provide additional highway capacity, transit capacity, wastewater, and where you might want to, as you are familiar with just from our previous comp plans that we just reviewed on this, that we have park search areas and park corridors. There are areas that are of regional importance and significance that you want to identify for those acquisitions. One parcel, 1 acre size parcels don't meet that regional scale, but some of those larger areas are other ways that the council can use its authorities to protect natural resources, both by guiding growth in different areas at a larger scale, not so much at the acre parcel scale, but also through acquisition and supporting implementing agencies in that acquisition.
Councilmember Atlas Ingebrigtsen.
So I think as we're starting to think about the next set of Thrive next, Thrive 2.0, I think it's important for us to think about, because I think it's misleading if we say we have, looking for the word, in the presentation, but if we have natural resource policies, but we have zero ability to enforce them or implement them, I think that's a way of creating conflict, misunderstanding, or unshared expectations with the public. So that's something that I think it would be worth us thinking a bit through about why have those policies if we don't enforce them or we don't implement them. And I would certainly expect, as a member of the public, if we have policies, then we implement them. So that's one thing I think I wrote a note down to keep thinking about as we go forward. I also want to just, if I could, share your comment about having activists speak up. I think that's wonderful when it can happen, but I think another thing for us to be aware of, and why I think advisory bodies and appointed bodies like ours are powerful, is that often that ability to speak up is a privilege. If you're a low-income person or middle-income person or a person with kids, you don't have the opportunity to spend your free time engaging in this kind of activity. And I think that's something for us to keep in mind, that free time to show up at a public hearing or advocate for yourself. And often, because of that, the people who get heard are over amplified or have more say because they have the privilege and the time to do that. And so I just think that I hear Greta Thunberg, who's that young woman from Sweden, who talks about, I shouldn't be here advocating for this. I should be able to be a kid. And so I take that very seriously about what our responsibility is in our seats is to represent our constituents and the broader regional interests of the area. So that's just I just thought I would share that piece. But
Councilmember Wolf?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Couple of questions. First of all, I'm looking at the satellite view of the property, and it looks like there's some stuff on there. So what is currently on the property?
Madam Chair, Councilmember Wolf, I am not entirely sure. I know that has come up before. Let's see here. Oh, we're not on the. There we go. My guess, if you will, might be storage facilities, maybe recreational use.
Because it looks like there's a ton of little dots on there, and I don't have any idea
I am certainly happy to follow up to
what
find out
they
what
are. But
I do know that in, for example, the floodplain areas, I know there's some agriculture, sort of light agricultural use, hay farming and that kind of thing in this area. So in part of the refuge that are privately owned, and part of a management system, those are obviously have limited use, but they are in agricultural use.
thank you.
Yeah.
May I continue?
Pardon?
May
Yes.
I continue?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. So I remember the previous one where we changed some of the other areas around here, and it's just down the road from Lion's Tap. And there's even on the last one when they were saying, oh, it's going to be bad for the other wildlife management area or whatever that is, there's Flying Cloud Drive that goes between them. So in terms of things flooding and having that come up and be a problem, the whole road would have to be underwater before this particular property would. Want me to wait while you get your phone?
Sorry. Music brought to you by my phone. If I can find it.
At least it's pleasant music.
Madam Chair, Councilmember Wolf, yeah, I included you're absolutely right that the particular site is not in the floodplain. I kept the floodplain area to just show the variety of characteristics of the natural environment. So.
But as far as the whole natural resources thing, if we say that you can't have any use of your property, somebody has to buy it. We don't have the money to buy it, and it would appear that Eden Prairie doesn't have the money to buy it either. So we have to allow some use of the property unless somebody's got to check that they're gonna buy it.
Councilmember Johnson.
And jumping off of that point, I'm only trying to get in the minds of a council member from Eden Prairie, but I'm just sure that's got to be why they're doing a single family only, one unit only zoning, is so that it's got its property rights, but nothing more beyond that developable one unit. So that's why I was kind of thinking they're working through this probably as well.
Any other comments or questions? Councilmember Wolf.
I continue. Given
Yes,
that
you may.
there's stuff on there that we don't know what it is, but apparently there's it looks like lots of little boxes or something on there, in a road of some sort or parking area of some sort. It's not pristine wilderness. So I guess in terms of it being a true natural resource that we need to worry about, it's already disturbed and not pristine wilderness anyway. So I'm not particularly worried about the natural resources preservation of this, especially since nobody at the moment wants to purchase it and preserve it.
Yes,
Ma-
Lisa. Madam Chair, if I just may clarify, I think we were a little more concerned about the steep slopes on this particular site. And that, as Mike had noted in his staff report, that development of the site would involve a potentially significant amount of earth moving that would potentially undermine that slope. And there has been slope subsidence issues along this particular area over time, especially with rain events. And so that's largely the issue. There are obviously natural resources around the site, but on this site, probably not so much in high quality.
Any other questions? Comments? Okay, hearing none. Is there a motion to approve the 2019 363 City of Eden Prairie Road, Eden Prairie Road Comprehensive Plan Amendment?
Move approval.
Wolf moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Johnson seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Okay, so the motion carried with one abstention. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is 2019-345 Park Acquisition Opportunity Fund Grant for Rush Creek Regional Trail, Three Rivers Park District. Jessica Lee.
Thank you, Chair and members. My name is Jessica Lee. I'm a Senior Parks Planner at the Council. I'm here tonight to present business item 2019-345, Park Acquisition Opportunity Fund Grant for Rush Creek Regional Trail, Higgins Parcel for Three Rivers Park District. Rush Creek Regional Trail crosses the northern portion of Hennepin County. This map shows both the existing and proposed regional trail. The 2007 Rush Creek Master Plan proposed an 11-mile extension to the regional trail. The existing 7-mile trail runs through Elm Creek Park Reserve and connects to the Coon Rapids Dam Regional Park. The trail extension, when completed, will run an additional 11 miles west of Elm Creek to connect to the Crowhassan Park Reserve. This map zooms in on the approved trail extension, which follows Rush Creek for 6 miles before turning north to connect to the Crowhassan Park Reserve. The 5-acre Higgins parcel is located in the city of Maple Grove, just east of I-94, as shown circled in blue. The Higgins parcel is 1.3 acres of upland and 3.9 acres of mostly wetlands, for a total of 5.3 acres. Rush Creek flows through the eastern portion of the parcel for approximately 670 feet. The image on the right shows the wetlands shaded in blue, with the dark blue area being most prone to seasonal flooding. The city of Maple Grove holds a trailway easement over the dark blue area. This easement does not impact Three Rivers Park District's use of the property, but it does allow Maple Grove to build local trail connections to the regional trail if that is ever desired. The appraised value of the Higgins parcel is $500,000, and the landowner has agreed to that price. However, Three Rivers Park District has agreed to sell the city of Maple Grove 17 feet of right-of-way in anticipation of future road work. So Three Rivers Park District will only be requesting reimbursement for $491,000 of the purchase price. Stewardship costs include removing the house, and Three Rivers Park District plans to hire a company that salvages as much of the material as possible. The grant amount will be $435,925, which is the balance of our 2020 legacy funding. This means that Three Rivers Park District will have to contribute slightly more than the usual 25% of the total project. They are instead contributing a match of 28%. Our rationale for recommendation is that this acquisition is consistent with the 2040 Regional Parks Policy Plan and state fiscal year 2020 Parks and Trails Legacy Fund appropriation requirements and the Rush Creek Regional Trail Master Plan, and that Three Rivers Park District is within its $1.7 million per year limit for Parks and Trails Legacy Fund PAOF funding. Our recommendations are to approve a grant of up to $435,925 to Three Rivers Park District for the 5.27 acre Higgins parcel located at 10530 Holly Lane North in the city of Maple Grove for Rush Creek Regional Trail, to authorize the Community Development Director to execute the grant agreement and restrictive covenant on behalf of the Council, to consider reimbursing Three Rivers Park District up to $170,245 from its share of a future regional parks capital bonding program, and to inform Three Rivers Park District that the council does not, under any circumstance, represent or guarantee that the council will grant future reimbursement, and that expenditure of local funds never entitles a park agency to reimbursement. And with that, I'm happy to take questions.
Questions? Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you. And again, just looking through the staff report, I'm just curious, how much of that is, I know this is going in park preserve area, or park, I should say, I don't know if it's a preserve, but whatever. But how much of that 527 is buildable? Do you know?
If we go back to the parcel map, if you can see where the house is on the left,
Mm-hmm.
that square on the left is the developable portion.
Yep.
So it's about
1.33
acres.
Okay. And I mean, I know this stuff, but they had appraisers come out and they did all that. I mean, it doesn't strike you that not though. I mean, first of all, it's a beautiful piece of property, so the value is there. But think about how much money 1.33 developable costs as we try to do affordable housing. Not that that's what this is about at all, but those things always they're those moments where you're thinking, just strikes you. So I'm fully supportive of this. I think it's a beautiful piece of property, and I'm thrilled Three Rivers is weaving in more of the system up there as they expand their park system throughout the northwest part of the metro area.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Johnson moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Atlas Ingebrigtsen seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 7. Thank you, Ms. Lee. Item number 7. I'm not being very polite tonight. I'm not thanking the staff enough. So, sorry. It's pre-Christmas fog. Big fog. 2019-364, 2019 Livable Communities Demonstration Account Transit-Oriented Development Funding Recommendation for tabled Lexington Avenue Project. Hannah Gary. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you, Chair, committee members. The recommendation that we're bringing forward is one that was tabled from a previous recommendation, and this is for the Lexington Avenue project from the City of St. Paul, which is part of the Livable Communities Demonstration Account Transit-Oriented Development Program. The details of the project are available in the business item. This is a project that was approved for funding by the Livable Communities Advisory Committee, and the project was tabled as a result of communication from neighborhood organizations. There were concerns about the project. The City of St. Paul was provided with additional time to address some of those concerns. And we have received communication from the City of St. Paul that they're working on addressing those concerns. And we are bringing forward tonight the recommendation from the Livable Communities Advisory Committee to fully fund the Lexington Avenue project from the City of St. Paul. And the city and developer are here tonight to answer any specific questions that might come up.
Are there any questions or comments? I would like to commend the city, the number of meetings that have been held with the various entities is impressive. So that's good. Councilmember Lee and then Councilmember Atlas Ingebrigtsen.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question for the developer. I don't know if this is proprietary or public information, but I was just curious if any opportunity zone money was coming to this project. And then my comment is that I've been in touch with my colleague who represents this area, Chris Fredson, as well as with the mayor's office, and they're on the same page. They're very supportive of the project. The developer could kind of walk away, and we value a working relationship with developers to try to be as good neighbors as we can with each other, and I appreciate that, and so I support it.
Councilmember Atlas Ingebrigtsen.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This is more a question about not the specifics of the project. I got information between that satisfied as as Councilmember Lee mentioned the concerns. But one of the things that I think was challenging about this and why it got tabled is the nature of the concerns and the community, and that was really left vague. And so I think um, if you recall back to how this got tabled, was kind of that an adjacent community had concerns, but it wasn't the community, and staff pulled it, even though it got through the process. And so Councilmember Johnson, if I remember correctly, pointed out this isn't congruent with our practice. And I think it would have been very helpful to have context when in that moment, and even today to the concern was about there not being any affordable housing in the development, and now it looks like there's a very robust plan for affordable housing in the development, and I don't know that all of my colleagues got the same information received as an update related to this. Maybe everybody did. I didn't notice that, but I just, as a point going forward, if things come up like this, I think it's really important so that we're making informed decisions and making those decisions from a place of strength. To have that kind of context would be very helpful going forward. When something kind of out of our normal methods of doing things, and I think the spirit of that was really to respect the process in place and respect the decisions of the city, the local community, to put that forward, which I agree with. I think we need to have one process for things, but recognizing things don't always go perfectly for our local community, could choose to do something different or whatever, but that's helpful to have that context when that comes up.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve? Mr. Lee, do you want, or Councilmember Lee, do you
So
want?
moved. Thank you.
Second.
Second by Johnson. Sorry to put you on the spot, Councilmember Lee, but since you did such a good job of speaking on behalf of Councilmember Fredson, I thought I'd make you a hero in Councilmember Fredson's world. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Is there any other business before us this evening?
Madam Chair, I just wanted to share, with your permission, of course,
Absolutely.
that we thank you for your first year of 2019 with us. And as we're a planning agency, we're already starting on and have been working on our 2020 work planning. So in January 6th, this isn't posted yet, we're not that far ahead, but I just wanted to seed for everybody that to be thinking about priorities for Community Development Committee work planning. I'll come to you at our first meeting on January 6th to start that discussion with you. We have, of course, the things we have to do that we'll continue to do, reviewing plans, plan amendments, and items that come to us, funding requests, et cetera. But we also have some programmed items part of our cycle. And I know what we have items coming out of your priorities that you'll be further discussing in January as well. So we want to just elevate that and get you thinking about at what point you want to engage on some of the new priorities early on, midpoint, at all points, but also if there are other items that you'd like to hear about or see different types of reports and different ways of seeing things as well. So just wanted to seed your thinking over the holidays before we see you again in January, and that it will be a couple of different meetings. We'll have those discussions that will fit into this committee's work plan, and then of course community development's broader and council's broader work plan as well. Thank you.
Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to thank the team as well with your leadership. And it really goes council-wide. You know, you've put up with almost whole brand new council. That's a lot. From City World, that usually never happens. So I don't know how you all manage through that. But on behalf of myself, thank you for being patient with me and working to find solutions in the communities I represent and helping me to understand things that I'm less familiar with. And so I'm just very grateful for everyone at the council and certainly this group as well.
I want to echo Councilmember Johnson. I also want to note, just not only has it been great to work with all of the council staff, but the cities and townships we represent and their elected officials and counties and their staffs have been amazing. So kudos to everyone who makes this whole region work as well as it does. Anything further? Hey,
I have to
oh,
just do one shout out.
yes.
Okay, and thanks to Charlie from Metro Cities, who's
Yes.
out there faithfully all the time, making sure that certainly in the metro area cities have a lens coming into our
Yes.
meetings because again they're busy, they're running their cities, and I do appreciate those partners out there that hold us accountable, but also really help build great relationships. So thank you, Charlie. Appreciate it.
Well, and Charlie's either managed the fine art of dozing with his eyes open, or he really does find these meetings very interesting because I never see him nodding off, drooling, or slipping off the chair. So, good job. Councilmember Atlas Ingebrigtsen.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a little commercial for MPOSC. We have a few openings, and we really could use people spreading the word. So if you can keep your eye out for those, and in particular, I'd really like to see gender balance. And as the members we've had step off have been women, it would be nice to have more than one woman on MPOSC. And so just a little commercial, if you will, for some assistance from my colleagues about promoting that opportunity.
Great.
Thank you.
Anything else for the good of the cause? Okay, hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.